Good evening, and right before we dive in, I'd like to quickly mention that this episode, the one that you're watching right now, actually has a companion episode over on Epoch TV, our awesome no censorship video platform. In that exclusive episode, we detail how, unbeknownst to most people, there's a giant push to scale up the use of both mRNA technology as well as gene therapy on the livestock that winds up on our supermarket store shelves. Meaning that whether it's beef, pork, lamb, chicken, or turkey, the meat that you're buying from the store could very soon contain remnants of mRNA-based vaccines that the animals were treated with. And that is, by the way, if they don't already contain them. If you'd like to check out that awesome exclusive episode, the link will be right there at the very top of the description box below. I hope you check it out. And now, diving into today's main topic. According to a recently published laboratory report, food samples from McDonald's, as well as from several other national food chains, they were found to have detectable levels of animal antibiotics as well as animal contraceptives. And although the sample size in this particular study was small, it does highlight a much larger issue. The fact that all these chemicals and drugs that go into our livestock, well, they might be ending up on our plates. And so let's start at the very beginning by going through how the study was conducted as well as what specifically it was able to find. And as always, I hope that if you appreciate content like this, which oftentimes goes completely under the radar of the mainstream media, well, you take a super quick moment to smash those like and subscribe buttons so that this information can reach ever more people via the YouTube algorithm. Now, to start with, this right here is an organization called Moms Across America. They are a nonprofit whose mission is to bring awareness to food that contains GMOs as well as pesticides. And last month, back in September, this organization took food samples from 10 of the most popular food chains in America, and they submitted these samples to be tested at a laboratory over in the state of Iowa. Specifically, these tests were conducted over at the Health Research Institute, which itself is a nonprofit that tests food for things like nutritional value, contaminants, as well as toxin. And Moms Across America, they asked this laboratory to test the food samples that they sent to them to see whether they had the presence of 100 different veterinary drugs and veterinary hormones. Here is specifically how this group collected the samples to be tested. Quote, "Most of the food was sampled from America's top 10 most popular food chains. Volunteers from Moms Across America went to their local McDonald's, Starbucks, Subway, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, Taco Bell, Chipotle, Dunkin', Wendy's, or Domino's stores and ordered the same meal several times. Kept in its packaging, each meal was sealed, frozen, and mailed to the Health Research Institute." And so then, after receiving these samples, the laboratory took in the food, they ground it up, and then they tested it for the veterinary drugs and the hormones. And what they found was that, with the exception of Chipotle and Subway, all of the food samples tested positive for one of 3 different types of veterinary drugs. Specifically, they tested positive for Monensin, Nicarbazin, and Nicarbazin. Although it is worth mentioning that the concentrations in all of the food samples were below what is allowed for by the FDA, meaning that none of the detectable levels were breaking the law. However, despite them being able to fly under the FDA's limit, the chief scientist over at the laboratory that was conducting these tests, he said that, quote, "The FDA's acceptable intake levels are meaningful for checking acute poisoning. Yet in the case of fast food, which some people consume daily, there's a concern for chronic poisoning due to accumulation of toxins." Now, in terms of what these detectable drugs actually were, well, the first one was called Monensin. This is a pretty commonly used antibiotic for animals whose side effect within animals can include, quote, "diarrhea, weakness, and motor problems. Overdose of Monensin can cause an animal's poisoning or even death." And because this is an antibiotic specifically for animals, Monensin poisoning in humans is very rare. Although there was a case over in the UK back in the year 2017 wherein a man drank 300 milligrams of Monensin, which led to a condition in his body known as rhabdomyolysis, wherein his muscle tissue began breaking down and leaking into the bloodstream. It's a very serious condition, but the silver lining here is that that man ingested about 1 million times more than what was found over in these food samples. As you can see, based on the lab results, less than 0.5 micrograms per kilogram were detected in the food from Taco Bell, Dunkin', Wendy's, Domino's, Burger King, as well as McDonald's. And just for your general reference in terms of broad safety levels, according to FDA guidelines, the acceptable daily intake for humans of Monensin is 12.5 micrograms per kilogram of body weight per day. And so the detectable levels in the fast food flew well below that. Now, the second chemical that was detected was called Nicarbazin, which is a drug that's commonly used in the raising of chickens. Quote, Narasin is an antibiotic and antiparasitic feed additive that helps control parasitic infections in fattened chicken. It is also often added to cattle feed as it increases dry matter intake. Both narasin and monensin are ionophores, meaning they can disturb the balance of ions in cells and are often used in animals to control bacterial and parasitic infections. Side effects of narasin in animals include anorexia, diarrhea, and degeneration of heart and skeletal muscles. And according to the lab results, less than 2 micrograms per kilogram of narasin was detected in a Wendy's cheeseburger, and it was also found in trace amounts in food from Dunkin', from Domino's, as well as a Starbucks sandwich. And again, just for your reference, in terms of the safety level, according to the FDA guidelines, the acceptable human daily intake for narasin is 5 micrograms per kilogram of body weight per day. And then lastly, you had a drug known as Nicarbazin detected in the food as well. Now, Nicarbazin is used as both an antiparasitic as well as a contraceptive in animal livestock. Quote, "The drug is primarily used as an antiparasitic drug in fattened chickens and turkeys, but it has also been used for population control of geese and pigeons. Since it is highly toxic to agricultural embryos and decreases egg laying and hatching among grown poultry populations, many farmers have called for more regulations to protect their animals from such exposures." Now, within the food that was tested over in the laboratory, Nicarbazin was detected only in the sample of Chick-fil-A's chicken sandwich. And in that sample, less than 0.5 micrograms per kilogram of Nicarbazin was detected. And again, just for your reference, according to the FDA, the acceptable daily intake for humans of Nicarbazin is 200 micrograms per kilogram of body weight per day, which is significantly higher than what was actually detected. Now, up until today, there have been no reports showing that Nicarbazin has toxic effects in humans, although there was one research report, you can see it up on screen for yourself, which assumed that Nicarbazin would be safe for people, with the logic being that most of the turkeys who are fed this drug would act as something like a filter, breaking down the Nicarbazin before it reached your dinner table. However, it's worth mentioning that the organization which coordinated this laboratory analysis, they weren't necessarily convinced by that sort of an assumption. Here was in fact a statement put out by Ms. Zen Honeycutt. She is the executive director for Moms Across America, and here's what she said, quote, "The impact of millions of Americans, especially children and young adults, consuming a known animal contraceptive daily is concerning. With infertility problems on the rise, the reproductive health of this generation is front and center for us in light of these results." Now, the story gets a lot deeper, which we'll get into right after a quick word from today's sponsor. Did you know that 91% of all cyber attacks begin with the victim receiving a simple email? And also, did you know that these big tech companies, as well as the governments of many different nations, are spying on your online activity? And so the time to protect yourself is right now. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, SEKUR. They have 3 different solutions for safeguarding your data and all of your online communications. You have Secure Mail, which allows for truly secure communication with anyone you interact with via email. You have Secure Messenger, which guarantees that your chat messages stay private. And then you have Secure VPN, which encrypts all of your internet traffic, and it helps to protect your online activity and your digital identity from IP hackers. And the best part is that unlike many of the other companies, SEKUR has their own proprietary technology, and they do all their hosting over in Switzerland, which has some of the strictest data privacy laws in the entire world. Basically, if you want your data to be truly private and safe from both bad actors as well as from governments, although sometimes they're one and the same, you should check out SEKUR. And best of all, right now they're running a special promo to our viewers. If you use promo code Roman20, you can save 20% off all their services for the next 5 years. So check them out. The link will be down in the description box below. Use promo code Roman20 to save some money, and let's head on back to the studio. And indeed, as of today, very few studies have been published which have investigated the effects of these veterinary drugs on humans, which is something that Ms. Honeycutt continued to point out. Quote, "That's the problem. These are veterinary drugs and hormones, so the only studies that I have found and that you will find will be for animals. They're not authorized for humans, and yet they're being allowed into the food supply. Some people are consuming this food every day, so we don't know how much they're accumulating in their body." Furthermore, even though this particular test was conducted on a rather small sample size, taking food from restaurants in isolated geographical locations, well, Ms. Honeycutt added that other chains might also be affected because of the way that the whole food production operates. Quote, "My understanding is that they're grinding the meat of hundreds of birds in order to make these processed meat patties. So when one is contaminated, it likely contaminates possibly hundreds of other samples. If one comes down with this particular disease, then the farmer will likely treat any of the birds at a facility with the hormones and antibiotics." She further added that more testing will need to be conducted in order to figure out whether other restaurants within these chains, or other chains altogether, have these same issues. Regardless, we here at the Epoch Times, we reached out to the fast food chains that were reported on in this analysis, but we have yet to hear back. Once they get back to us, I'll add whatever they sent to us as comments. It'll be down in the description box below this video for you to check out, so you can check back in there regularly. Otherwise, if you'd like to go deeper into this research and go through these lab results for yourself, I'll throw all the relevant links. They'll also be down in the description box below this video for you to peruse at your own leisure. And then lastly, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, if you are looking for a phenomenal companion episode to what we discussed today, well, you're in luck, because we published an exclusive episode detailing this push to scale up the use of both mRNA technology as well as general gene therapy on the livestock that winds up on our supermarket store shelves as well as on our dinner plates. Meaning that whether it's beef, pork, lamb, chicken, or turkey, the meat that you're buying from the store or the sandwiches that you're buying from restaurants could very soon contain the remnants of mRNA-based vaccines that the animals will be treated with. That is, by the way, if they don't already contain them. If you'd like to check out that awesome companion episode, you can do so over on Epoch TV, which is, again, our no censorship video platform. On this platform, unfortunately, those type of topics are not welcome because, well, on this platform, it's run by purple hair young people over in Silicon Valley who, when they hear certain keywords they don't like, well, they can hit that censor button and have the episode be wiped off the map. So unfortunately, we cannot publish anything related to those topics here, but over on Epoch TV, we don't have that problem, which is why we publish it over there. If you want to check out that exclusive episode, you can find the link. It'll be right there at the top of the description box below. You can just click on that link and head on over to Epoch TV and check it out for yourself. And I should mention that right now we're running a super cool special, just 25 cents a week for the whole year to try the Epoch Times. And so if you've been on the fence about trying the Epoch Times, you want to check out all this exclusive content, but you're not sure whether you're ready to subscribe, well, perhaps take the sale as an opportunity to try it yourself today. 25 cents a week for the whole year translates to just a single $1 a month. So right now, pretty much is the best time you can possibly have to check out the Epoch Times. The link will be right there at the top of the description box below. Just click on it, check out the Epoch Times. I'm sure you'll love it. You can, of course, cancel at any time, but something tells me you won't. Something tells me you'll be a subscriber for a long, long, long time to come. Again, that link is right there at the top of the description box below. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.